Alright, so this is going to be the video for our ULA review week number 12. So we're just going to jump in. I'm going to just say I'm going to graph very loosely here just because these graphs are not very great. I'm going to help you at least get the points, and then I'll show you the generic shape that it's going to be. So starting with number 1, here we can start with our y-intercept, right? So when x is 0, our y would be 3. So again, that's like 1 point here. Then we have our vertex formula we can plug in, right? So we have an x equals the opposite of our b, which is negative 6 here, over a positive 2 times 1. So then we are left with a positive 3. So that's helping with our vertex, which tells us here that our axis symmetry is going to be x equals 3. Then we plug that in. So with y, if x is 3, we have a 3 squared minus 3 times 6. Then plus 3. So from there, we should get a negative 6. So our vertex, again, you can plug it in here. We have a 3, negative 6. This is where I'm going to show the loose base. So we have like our intersect is 0, 3, so 1, 2, 3. And if our vertex is positive 3, negative 6 is about here. And it's our vertex, so the other side's going to be the same. We are given this shape, right? So we have a minimum, right? Because we have a bottom. And that's when we have a negative 6. Now, our domain and range. Our domain is any restrictions on the x value, which we have none, right? So it's just all real numbers. And how about our range? Is there any restrictions on y? Well, yes, it stops right here, right? Negative 6. So our y's must be greater than or equal to negative 6. And that's kind of what I'm going to do. You can put any other points here. If that helps you. I'm just going to kind of just show the 2 points I'm using. Reference, loose base. These graphs are really horrible to try to graph on, so it's okay if you're having difficulty. So let's move on to number 2. Number 2, we can still begin, start on our y-intercepts. We have 0. Then plugging that in, our y, we get a negative 5, right? So again, we have a 0, negative 5, that's one of our points. Then our vertex is x equals the opposite of b over our 2 times, well, here we have a negative 2, right, for our a, leaving us to have negative 2. So our vertex, we have an x is equal to negative 2, x equals negative 2 for our axis symmetry, right, because it's always the same thing, because it's where the split's happening. And let's plug that in. We have a y. Then we have negative 2 squared minus 8 times negative 2 minus 5. And you can trust me here, we will get a positive 3. So we have a negative 2, 3. So again, this is the second point that you're going to get here. So we have a negative 2, 3. These are 2 points that you must have to try to graph. So from there, let's look at here. We have a y-intercept of 0, negative 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a vertex of negative 2, positive 3. Alright, if it's a vertex, that means the other half is going to be the same as this half. So we have a maximum here. Where? Well, it's where our vertex happens, right? So it's just 3. Domain, again, is going to be all real numbers. All real numbers are going to be pretty much all of these in this worksheet. Just an FYI. Range, any range on restriction on our y values? Well, yes, these are all less than 3, right? So y must be less than or equal to 3. All right, number 3. Number 3, y-intercept. Well, when x is 0, we get a negative 2. So we have 0, negative 2 is one of our points here. Vertex, we have an x, right? We have we have no b here, it's just 0, right? So we have a 0 over, basically it doesn't matter, it's going to be 0. So our vertex is 0. Plug that in, that's when we get negative 2. Oh, what happened here? Our y-intercept is our vertex here. So I'm just going to show it here, 0 to negative 2. So basically, obviously you're going to graph more points, but that's the shape. So we have a max, right? The top of the graph, which is negative 2. Axis symmetry. Actually here is just x equals 0. Then our domain. Any restrictions on x? Actually, no. It's just all real numbers. Like I said, it's all going to be all of them. And our range. Any restrictions on y? Y? Well, it can't be greater than our negative 2, right? So our y must be less than or equal to negative 2. All right, number 4. Number 4, again, let's start with our y-intercept. That is the most simplest one. We get a 0 and a positive 4. So let's keep track of that point here. Then our vertex. These are kind of showing you the pattern of how you should, if you need to solve these quickly or judge your list of graphs. These are the two things you can kind of check if the y-intercept is correct or if the vertex is correct. So vertex. The opposite of b here is just going to be negative 4. And our 2 times h is just 1. So we have a negative 4 over 2, which is going to be our negative 2. So we are given an x value of negative 2, which means our axis of symmetry is going to be negative 2. Let's plug that in here. Squared 4 times negative 2 plus 4. And just trust me there, our y is going to be a 0. So we have a negative 2, 0, which is another plot we have here. So let's kind of graph that to get a shape of our graph. We have a 0, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have a negative 2, 0, negative 2, 0, 1, 2, 0. So what happens to here, our shape, this is our vertex, so it's going to be like loose shape here, just kind of helping us determine if we have a max or a min. We have a min here, so let's circle that here. Our min is going to be at our negative, or our min is going to be at our 0, right? Because that's where we meet. Any domain, it's going to just be all real numbers. And our range. Well, we see here it has to be greater than 0. So just y is greater than or equal to 0. All right, number 5. Well, our y-intercept, we have a 0. It would just be 0. So we have a point 0, 0. Then our vertex, we have x equals our negative of b, which is just 10. Then we have 2 times negative 5. So we basically get a x value of 1. So we have 1 of our x. Axis of symmetry is positive 1. Plug that in. If we get 1, trust me here, we get a vertex of 1, 5. So that's a point, another here. When we graph that here, we have a graph that looks with our y-intercept here and our vertex up at 1, 5. So about like here-ish. Kind of the shape here. Oh, I don't know what that shape is. There we go. Kind of this loose shape here. Probably. There we go. Either way, we still have a max. That's kind of what we're wanting to circle here. Right, so we have a maximum value of 5, which means all real numbers. And that our range is going to be our y, it needs to be less than or equal to 5, right? Because it's facing downward. All right, I'm going to finish the rest of the worksheet in our second video.